Thanks, Trustee.
Sure, no problem.
Thanks. I'll set out, I will call the meeting to order. Linda's not here to take notes, so. I'll try to do both.
I can help too.
Yeah.
You just want to call the roll?
Yeah. Yeah, I got it. It's not gonna be hanging. Roll call, Gus. Here. Tim called in sick. He's out. Will.
Present?
Jeff.
Yep.
Jay.
Yes.
Ryan.
Yep.
Stites is here. Linda's not here. Jennifer.
Here.
Thank you. Approve the agenda. Take a look at it. Again, I tried to email it to you in my software because finance, I think it saw all the reports and blocked it. So I just sent the agenda in the minutes. Hopefully you downloaded the budget from the website, or I printed off some extra copies too. Should have everything. Any questions on the agenda, changes?
Motion to approve the agenda as presented by the secretary.
Second,
I'll second.
Jennifer Gus. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Gus. Public participation. Anybody in the crowd want to say something? Anybody on Zoom? Nobody's there?
I think, yeah, but I don't see a hand raised.
No hands. Going once, twice. No comments. All right, guess, so we'll get right into it. We got Jessica here, to go over changes. Again, Sandy's no longer with us. Officially, we don't know if there'll be some, use of her just for history knowledge or historical review if we got a question, but she's not gonna do the books for us. So Jessica's gonna update us about how that's probably gonna change here for the DDA.
Thanks, Bob.
Yep.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me. Just wanted to do a check-in since we had the transition of Sandy's retirement, new board, and just want to make sure that we continue to meet the DDA's needs. I think that regularly, Rebecca or Sandy, but any one of us can provide the balance sheet and revenue and expenditure report to your regular meetings. So if there's any additional reports you need, just let us know. I'm happy to provide those. As you know, Rebecca provides, she processes all the AP for the DDA. So that will continue as is. If there's any tweaks to that process, let me know. But any payments that are due, we'll have the list of bills for payment and get those processed as usual. So I don't expect any change to kind of the standard process, but I just wanted to take the opportunity to also encourage the DDA to ask the township for additional reports, assistance, whatever is needed as you do your work.
So Rebecca will be issuing any checks we ever.
She's been doing that for years. Yeah, so she'll continue doing it.
Okay.
Yeah, and we work together as a team. So we have also our finance assistant who's currently assigned to utilities, but she's also learning AP, Belisha King. She's doing a great job. So we've got Rebecca and Belisha, and we still have Pam Gap just on an interim basis as our finance director. But with the new board taking office, we plan to hire a permanent finance director. So we'll have a team of 3. Right now we have a team of 2 plus a consultant.
So again, you hired people from Plant Moran to run things. Or to do
Yeah,
something.
under contract, they've been.
Right,
under
on contract, right?
Yeah.
Because I thought those people worked here, but they're technically.
Contractors. Yeah. And then also I gave Bob a hard copy of the audit. As you know, we always include the DDA in our audit. It was submitted by the end of September. We had them present at the board. We've submitted a corrective action plan. Certainly no issues with the DDA fund. Otherwise we would have reached out to you sooner. We have all the reports published on the kind of budget and finance page of the website. But again, just reach out if you need anything. I also wanted to suggest and invite the DDA to coordinate with the township on this year's capital planning and budget process. Certainly your prerogative if you want to or not, but I think it makes good sense for us to coordinate our efforts where possible. I expect that the new board will be considering, we're about to go into budget season, right? We have an April 1 fiscal year, of course. And what we want to do this year is try to get rolling on our capital plan a little bit ahead of the budget. So at the first meeting of the new board, November 20th at noon, I plan to bring forth kind of proposed budget instructions. They're very similar to what we've used in years past. I know we've shared those with Bob and Sandy and the DDA before, but really including a chance for people to start thinking about their capital planning for the next. The township uses a kind of 6-year view, however many years out, but the township has a 6-year capital plan. I would love for us to get to the point where we have the DDA as part of that. Again, it's just a plan, it's not binding, but it helps us kind of coordinate, particularly when there's shared priorities like fire or parks or other things. So if the board does approve those, I would expect that we would be working through December on the capital plan. And I would hope that the board would be deliberating on the capital plan and adopting it by mid-January. So just wanted to share that. When we issue those, we'll share it out with the DDA, but would just encourage the DDA to kind of plan along with us, especially for those big ticket items. And then, of course, I don't know exactly how the budget process will go, but we'll assume it would go kind of similar to years prior, where we'd be ready to have kind of a public hearing on the budget by February 25th and aim for adoption of the budget by March, before the April 1 fiscal year start. So any suggestions or questions?
Is our budget on the website somewhere? It's not under the DDA, but maybe it's under.
It's
hard
not,
to
Bob.
find.
Yeah, it's under it's just contained as part of the overall township budget.
I've got some calls, people want to see the budget, it's not.
Yeah, we can
set it up
try to make that more
something.
prominent, pull it
All the
out.
numbers on there.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
The one thing that goes along with this, Bob, which I've been looking at, and this is gonna impact the DEA in some way, shape, or form. I look back at our January meeting minutes, Jennifer, and I've talked with Jennifer about this. Jennifer is appointed as treasurer of the DDA. Scio Township has this interesting relationship, or there's a relationship that Scio Township is responsible for the DDA as a subunit. But I'm the treasurer elected of Scio Township, not of the DDA. So there's a question about who's in charge of the money for the DDA. I think
Custody of it.
custody of the money of the DDA. I did email the DDA attorney, I never heard anything back from him as of yet. Jim and Mariah believe that it's who is the treasurer of the DDA as set forth by the statute and set forth by your meeting minutes, so just something we probably should talk about, we can talk about a little bit later in the meeting.
Right. I mean, it's a streamline, it would make sense just to make you. But I don't know if there's custody chain that you need.
No, I don't have I don't have enough information to have an opinion on it. I think we want really a clean record. Certainly the statute that Mariah and Jim cited was the DDA statute that says the DDA may employ a treasurer. So that is clear. Jim mentioned he knows of no other local unit where the local unit treasurer is also the treasurer of its DDA. So there may be some wisdom having it separate. I can see pros and cons to both, but I really think it's a matter that could be researched. Certainly it wouldn't change the tax collection function that our treasurer would have or the financial reporting function that the township provides. It would be really a matter of who's responsible for you know, the accounts and the investment decisions.
And in addition to that, for everybody else on the DDA, last week, or week before, late in the week, I did meet with Bank of Ann Arbor as part of the Scio Township Treasurer transition. They have found the DDA's EIN number.
Oh.
So,
that, Brian?
we do have our own employer identification number,
Oh.
unique to the DDA, that is not Scio Township's, so. So,
Found, it was lost and now it's found.
things to talk about.
It's all good. We'll just tighten up some accounts. Jennifer's on, we're on the bank accounts together. Gus is on the investment accounts. I'm not on those. So, yeah, we'll go through those. Yeah. Any other questions, Jessica? But these reports are excellent. That's all we need. Again, you know, we write big checks, but we only write 6.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
This is easier to run than our households, I think.
Yep.
Right, you got
Thank
checks
you.
going out for kids' camps and stuff.
Yeah,
Thank you.
start planning now.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. You just missed it.
Yeah, we were waiting, but.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
So next, we've got Andrew here, the fire chief, and we're gonna discuss, I just put him at the beginning, we're gonna discuss the new fire millage that just passed. Get an update on how that's gonna work and how that affects the DDA.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Glad to be here. My first time in front of you, probably should not have been. My name's Andy Hood, Township Fire Chief. And then as Chairperson Stites just mentioned, we did, pass a new millage, for the fire department. That's gonna replace the existing 1.35 mil special assessment, that'll go away. And this new 2.7 mil millage, will take its place. This is gonna give the fire department, the funds needed to, bond for and construct a second fire station, as well as add staffing to that second fire station. Timeline, it's gonna be a little bit of a longer project. I'm expecting probably 2 years, by the time we get RFPs through for architect, for a construction manager, work through the process, and I know you folks are all well aware of this, and I think 2 years is optimistic. But part of the project moving forward, it's gonna be a lot of work for us, and if I understand your borders correctly, this falls just outside of the DDA, correct?
The new one would be just outside of that.
That being said, I'm happy to talk to you about any questions you may have about the project, and how it may affect the DDA going forward.
So again, the question came to us is because, and we did this with the sidewalk millage too, we collect part of that millage. There's some interest in having us give part of that back or all of it back, or whether we can or not legally.
Sure.
So those are our questions that, you know, the board's gonna looked at and still are discussing, but, so that's why we're involved in it. Again, the millage, we're gonna collect, they ran the numbers roughly $250,000 after some other expenses are taken off. Per year. 10 each year.
The additional 1.35, how much is that gonna be?
Was 250 to the DDA. 50 to the DDA. What's it, 250,000?
CDA, what's the total? Does anybody know?
I'm sorry?
The total,
How many years?
the total per year, 1.35 additional, right?
Well, it's gonna bring roughly, I'm sorry, I can hardly hear with the compacting going on. But the village should bring in around 2.6 total, or around 4.6 million total.
Yeah, it'll switch to the millage 2.7, right?
2.7, correct?
Right, but the 1.3, the current 1.35 special assessment will go away when that millage takes effect.
I understand, so it's wrong.
Okay.
It's 1.35 existing, so it's gonna go to 2.7.
Right.
So what's the additional 1.35 is gonna create? How much income is that gonna create?
About $2.3 million,
About 2.3 million a year, so the totality is gonna be 4.6.
roughly.
That's one thing to keep in
much
mind.
comes
That, the 2.3 million dollars, that includes the 250 to DDA?
Yes, that's the total sum, and it's an approximate number.
And just to clarify, we don't currently collect anything because it's a
Well,
special assessment.
we
The
don't get
DDA does
special
not collect on
assessment.
special assessments.
Gotcha.
So as it sits today, the DDA gets $0, from the fire special assessment district. Once this is built next to something, the DDA would then capture.
Right. So, you know, millage is different than a special assessment, so we collect millage, part of the villages. And again, with this, I don't know what the name of that was, pathways, millage, sidewalks. We collect about $100,000 of that, which we usually try to use for pathways or sidewalks within the DDA.
But we don't collect,
Yeah, go ahead.
we don't collect anything out of special.
Through the special assessment district, we don't collect, right?
Correct, right. Special assessments are exempt from the tax increment
Yeah,
financing.
and they're dedicated usually, right?
Special assessments?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So again, in the memo we sent out, we talked about, we put together just some, and I did talk to the attorney too that was working on, you know, a legal opinion on this. First of all, it's outside, the new location would be outside the DDA. Whether we can use it inside the DDA still would be the question.
Whether what?
The new location would be outside the
Outside.
DDA's lines,
Correct.
which again, we're kind of getting going, but eventually maybe we increase the size of the DDA to include that. There's a couple of spots that we could increase it to, and then we would also have to extend the DDA, which we talked about in the last.
so it's
Few years.
expanding the
Boundaries.
boundaries of the DDA district.
Right.
And then extending the lifespan of the DDA itself.
Right.
Okay, just to be clear.
Just a thought on alignment that maybe before this thought falls out of my brain. That now that we're having inspections by your fire marshal, that maybe that's something the DDA would finance for the commercial people, the office people in the township. Granted, it's a very low fee today, but my experience has always been it starts as a low fee.
Well, I like that idea because that's a way to help out the commercial.
It's a trade back.
Yeah.
It's.
We do know when you show up in businesses, we get.
No, I have no doubt.
You know, and I totally, by the way, I'm very pleased and totally support that inspection. I think it's a great idea. I mean, it's long overdue.
I appreciate that, and I can say we have, through this inspection process, and I use the term violation, and it comes with a negative connotation, but that's wrong. We find fire code violations, and we're able to correct them, which reduces risk for business.
Exactly, yeah.
Your businesses are safer, having our fire marshal come in and give you a hard time sometimes. But at the end of the day, you know, that's what keeps you in business.
Keeps us in check too, yeah, so.
And then you're kind of bringing up this, you know, is that our purpose to help with, you know, the fire department? You know, is that the DDA's purpose? You know, again, it's economic growth and beautifying the DDA area. Yes, you could say, you know, we're helping the economy somehow by, you know, supporting the fire department, but I haven't seen, again, it's different areas and we're in Washington County, which is gonna be different anyways, but I haven't seen any other DDA pay for the fire department. I have seen them buy a building and then they sold it and then they put a beer pub or something in the old one, you know?
I think I've seen them buy fire trucks.
Yeah, so you know, and that's what we could
Yeah.
do here is help with equipment. You know, we all want, we wanna help them. It's whether that's the purpose of the
Who
DDA.
maintains the hydrants? Does the water department?
Yeah, utilities department does maintain our hydrants.
Utilities would be good. So that's the question. We don't have to decide obviously today, but you know, collecting $250,000 from that millage, how can we support? We don't have to, legally, we don't have to, but you know, it is because of that. People voted for it. So, you know,
Maybe an explanation about the ladder truck funding, like a quick explanation about what money we have and what money we still need.
Sure, so someone's just gonna jump in, but yeah. So currently the township does not have a ladder truck. And we rely on the city of Ann Arbor. And speaking specifically to businesses, Our ladders that are carried on our regular fire engines are designed for residential use, so we really don't have a means to get to the roof of a building in the commercial district whatsoever. Without Ann Arbor City arriving on scene, you know, we've undertaken, alternate funding methods with the supervisor taking the lead. And come up with about $1.3 million towards that ladder truck. We're about $500,000 short. We had an incident, boy, I want to say this spring, commercial business, 2 stories, had a sprinkler head activate due to a malfunction, not a fire. But we needed to inspect the roof of the building to make sure there wasn't something on the roof that caused the sprinkler head to go off. And it took us about 20 to 25 minutes before we could access that roof. We would have known very quickly if it was an actual fire, but and had that been an actual fire, would have prohibited us from most effectively dealing with the fire on the roof. So if you look at a ladder truck from a protection of business standpoint, that's a definite necessary tool for our commercial buildings. And again, one that we're looking for alternate means of funding. And have secured most of that so far. We're about $500,000 short.
Cause you've responded to incidents, I know at Thetford.
Correct.
Jackson Road,
Yep.
with that required roof access.
Many do.
Leo's Coney Island on Zebra that needed roof access, I think there was a massage place there, HVAC system.
You know, it's not uncommon for an HVAC unit on the roof of a building to catch fire, have a belt go bad and, you know, fill the place full of smoke, or actually have a fire start on the roof. It's not uncommon at all.
It's all happened in the last 12 to 18 months.
Do you have a budget for a truck, but you're short at this point?
So yeah, we've been securing, so none of this has come from fire budget. We're looking for other sources to get it. And we've secured about 1.3 million. We most recently, the supervisor and Mr. Yapel have helped, with legislative efforts. We've secured $750,000 from the state legislature. Yeah, so we're looking for any other means to get this funded outside the tax dollar.
There was another 500,000 that we thought we might get through a separate part of the state budget. They were gonna create a grant program for public safety. And we would have been a good candidate to get the maximum $500,000 grant through that. But that at the last minute was pulled from the budget, that program, so it's not included. So the only chance we have at this point of getting 500,000 from the state would be if there's some action in a supplemental appropriation.
But for me, that's an appropriate type of thing for DDA to look at. Yeah.
How many of your calls are EMT related versus fire?
So fire and rescue calls, I'll lump them together. And then we have medical calls. Medical calls are about 45% and fire rescue are about 55%. Based on last year's incident numbers.
I'll forward that. You gave me a heat map. I'll send that out to everybody just so they can see it.
One other thing to mention about the inspections is that there's lots of other benefits that sort of flow from the reestablishment of the fire inspections, because the township doesn't have a building department or building inspectors. And the county is, you know, kind of stretched in terms of that function. And we're probably one of their biggest clients. So having a fire inspector go through and look at the buildings is providing information about other situations that the township needs to react to.
Chemicals.
And, well, all sorts of things.
Flammables, chemicals.
All sorts of things, unsafe situations.
Yeah.
And
Unpermitted buildings.
It had a
Permitted uses.
had a very long, interesting conversation with the fire marshal about all that stuff, because, yeah.
And I think that has a benefit to everyone, including, and probably most importantly, to nearby businesses that might be put at risk. So I think it's a legitimate thing for the DDA to look at in terms of a way of providing support to the fire department in a way that's meaningful and connected to the DDA district.
So what, again, this will start in January, the change?
With the beginning of the fiscal year in April.
Okay, so we've got a little time for that. Maybe we can brainstorm a little bit, come up with some ideas and then put together a proposal for us to vote on at the time.
Well, you could even we'll know, I guess, by January, whether there's any additional funding from the state. So if, as Jay was suggesting, the DDA wants to consider helping to fill a gap in funding for that ladder truck, that could be something on the agenda in January.
For sure.
But I'm thinking more of a annual,
Yeah.
you know, because again, it's gonna be 250,000 each year for 10 years. 12, sorry, 12 years, so.
If I remember correctly, there's quite a lead time on an order for a hook and ladder truck, so.
Correct,
Yep.
So my question is, if we committed the funds in January, that might assist you to getting the truck. We wouldn't have the funds to give you until later on. Would it still be beneficial?
Absolutely. Yeah, a couple options when we purchase, we can place an order with no money down. And it's due in roughly, there's different milestones, when chassis is complete and then, when 75% complete and then fully complete. But yeah, it is 600 days, based on our current information with our vendor. And as you know, in business, everything, prices are continuing to go up. So the quicker we can get something ordered, the more value we have,
Is that called an aerial truck or?
Aerial ladder truck, yep. But yeah, they're still seeing increases of, 3 to 5% or more every year or every half year, so.
You can lock that price or?
We can, yep.
What's the lifespan on a truck?
15 years primary service, so it's gonna be around for a good long time for the community.
Then you sell it to the Upper Peninsula, right?
Yeah, that's pretty typical. We use them, yeah, we use them, a little more robustly than, an Upper Peninsula department would, and then when it's reached the end of its life expectancy, they'll take it and limp it along for another 10 or 15 years, and, they run on two fire calls a year, and they're happy to have older equipment in many of these areas.
There's a picture of some drones with that hose on them spraying a tall building. That'd be pretty cool.
So that's interesting. Yeah, I don't know if the technology's there yet, but a ladder truck, is pre-plumbed to apply water from an elevated area. So, any building we have in Scio, we'd be able to reach the roof of the
Plus
attic.
you guys gotta get on the roof.
Yep, we gotta get on the roof. There's plenty of examples throughout the county where departments have apartment buildings that catch fire, and the fire is in a top floor apartment, that fire extends into the attic, and the only way to address that is with a elevated stream from a ladder. It's the difference between, burning down a 20-unit apartment building or stopping it after 2 or 3 apartments in the attic.
Basically, what's your budget for your fire marshal and services?
Do
roughly?
some rough math for you. About 135,000.
Did that person also review plans coming to planning commission, et cetera?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, he does all that.
That's all, to me, that's all commercial type things, yeah.
When, and I don't know if it lines with like planning and approval, but like the new, what's the community that's built down off Jackson?
Woodview Commons?
Right, so that's something that would be required, is the expectation that they, before they get approval or when they start building, that they have to also submit funds to support safety for them.
Yep, so that was a PUD. So that community did, or has donated funds towards this ladder truck specifically.
Okay.
Community benefit.
Yep, so as part of the community benefits, one of the criteria that the township applies is, support from that land unit development to the fire department, also utilities if it's appropriate, off-site utilities. In the case of Woodview Commons, there's a whole package of community benefits, but the $225,000 that they pay directly to the fire department went into this fund, this pot of money for the ladder truck. And actually Woodview Commons was willing to pay upfront. Most development agreements have the community benefits, and I know Linda's got one pending, where a certain amount of the development has to be built and sort of occupied before the benefit is due. And in this case, they paid upfront because we asked them.
Okay, well, during construction, it would be nice to also have that. And who would order, where do you order this truck from?
So there's several vendors, and I'm gonna give you my honest answer. I pick based on service. I don't want a ladder truck that's gotta go 4 hours away to get service, so we pick a local vendor. All ladder trucks, all fire engines have issues, have problems, they're going, and they need maintenance and repairs. So we pick based on service company. Our closest service company that we use is R&R Fire Truck Incorporated. They sell a couple different brands, and they also participate in the Sourcewell program, which is a competitively bid product. So we negotiate with them what we want, and then they apply a competitively bid discount to the product.
So we built in Michigan.
Yep, actually, our water tanker was built with the same company, and we're next week going up to Charlotte to see the chassis. So it's, you know, within an hour.
Here?
It's not like Volvo or anything. Volvo's a lot of buses.
They're all, I did some work with Spartan
Okay, yep,
way back when, my automotive days, and
They're all very custom.
they are. But when you think about it, they're an extremely complicated machine, right? You've got a commercial truck chassis. You've got all the toolboxes where we store equipment on there, so it's the tool compartment. It's got a water pump and plumbing because we're moving water. And then a ladder truck has a hydraulically operated ladder on top of it too. So all these things have to get put together in something that we can drive down the road and use every day. So they're extremely complicated.
We'll put together some options, brainstorm, send out an email, and anybody come up with some ideas, and then we'll look at them in January. And you're right, we could do a one-time assistance for the ladder truck, and then the next year do something different, but I think it's nice to have, you know, an income stream level. Maybe it's not all 250, but a certain amount, so they can budget again for them. They know there's $100,000 coming in from the DDA or something.
Takes 2 years.
600 days right now, yep.
You know, the other point would be, and I've talked to them as well, you know, the police Washington, they were always asking for money as well. Do we do something, you know, for protection on the DDA? But the millage definitely is only fire.
Well, yeah, and to your point, I think that's where a lot of the calls are, is in the DDA district.
Yeah, they are.
It's been just.
The heat map is really, it's that
too, yeah, there's a couple of spots in
Yeah.
particular with.
our main, you know, this intersection right here is very dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And we looked at that pedestrian crossing, and so I don't know what the answer is there, but yeah. A lot of the calls are definitely in the DDA. All right, any other questions? Thanks, chief.
Thank you, appreciate your time today.
Let's go ahead and approve the minutes from last meeting. Should be in there as well. The front and back says draft on it. Got it.
Motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second,
Will. Ryan, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Are you both taking minutes now? So.
Back. Get back. See how Jeff does. All right. Special reports, DDA chair. Again, I just mentioned it. You know, one of my pet peeves is those signs out there. We've had a lot of obviously construction on the boulevard, but the businesses are still leaving their signs out there. We don't have an ordinance officer currently. They're interviewing for one. But again, just, you know, keeping it clean.
No,
leave his sign.
Political science.
He's a part timer. Probably just got to. He was doing a great job. And I think he put together some ordinances in writing, right?
Sean McCormick is his
Yeah.
name. He was doing a great job. He was also part-time working as a court officer. One of those people who sort of monitors security for courts downtown. And he just decided to up his hours there, I think.
So they're looking for a new one, which will help out on the boulevard. The other thing is just, talking to the utility guys, they're looking at possibly adding to the utility department here or at a different location. And again, we kind of run into that. What is the purpose of the DDA? Is it to help build government buildings or is it help with the economy on the boulevard? So, whether we can or can't help with that, is another question, but that'll be maybe addressed next year as well. I'll talk to them in between the meetings, the boulevard. That's about it. Well, you got anything to add?
Well, we talked earlier about Woodview Commons. They're actually on the agenda this evening for the Board of Trustees. They successfully, just as the township was lobbying to get support for purchasing a ladder truck, they were lobbying the legislature to get support for the improvements on Jackson Boulevard in the area in front of their development the road commission had required. And so that's on the agenda this evening, whether to move forward. The money would come through the township. So the township has to basically take some affirmative steps to receive that money to pay for those improvements. What else is going on? I think the work is complete on that road commission was doing near the Zeeb Road Jackson intersection.
They said they gotta, I think, almost file it down a little bit in some spots, but I saw some people out there, so hopefully they're done with that, but there's a little bit more work they said they had to do, but
Well, I know they're doing work on Jackson,
way down there.
right down near just west of Baker. I drove through there yesterday. Where else is there work going on?
Everywhere.
Everywhere,
Park Road.
Yeah, Park Road's,
right?
yeah.
Oh,
My daughter lives over there. They're kind of mad about that, but
This isn't in the DDA district,
No, I
but I
know.
think Knight Road is gonna get closed shortly for a culvert replacement. And I believe a major culvert replacement next construction season on Park Road, just outside the DDA district.
They're closed now, aren't they?
Pardon?
They're closed now.
Park, that's the other side of of
Okay.
Zeeb. This
Sorry,
is
this
on the
side.
east side of Zeeb on the, yeah, that actually, thank you for bringing that up. They discovered a problem with a utility line, an existing or old utility line of some kind, in the Stabler area, near the work that was going on, near the Trailwoods subdivision, part of that road improvement, which is going to delay completion of that road improvement until next construction season.
They're gonna open it up or is it gonna stay closed?
Well, that's a question. When I heard of this, I asked the road commission if it was possible to open up Park Road during the winter, if they're not gonna be doing any construction. I have not heard back.
If they change their signage so that you know it's closed before you get to it? Okay.
I haven't looked at the signage. Is that a problem?
Was for me.
Going which side?
I came from Liberty.
Oh, so you came in.
It was kind of like a road boat sign, but it was pushed off into the weeds and.
Yeah.
That the real thing, and then there was probably 5 or 6 cars down there turning around.
Oh, God.
Stabler, so
All right,
that was a while ago. That was 3 weeks, 3-4 weeks ago.
all right. Well, maybe they fixed it by
I would
now.
assume it's a road closed to
And
traffic.
you can't call the road commission because they don't answer, so.
Just to email them.
That's true, that's true.
the good thing is they're fixing the roads, right?
Sure.
It's interesting, listening to the state of Michigan, they issued a big bond for MDOT of 30 years. And there's not a lot of roads in Michigan the last 30 years. But that's how they're financing some of their roads, but I think it's our temperature more than anything. We just freeze and thaw a lot here. You go to other states and they've got beautiful roads, but so
Well, speaking of beautiful roads, Medi and Dino are now finished,
Right,
paving, repaving.
yeah. That's our next topic
That
there.
looks pretty good.
I
So
drive
that-
it 3 times a week.
Will's kind of leading us up into the, well, let's go to the, you got anything else, Will?
No, that's it.
Sorry, we'll get into the roads here in a minute. Landscape Committee report, Gus. So I'm adding it up. Gus just gave me the final bill for that side of the boulevard that was done. And again, last year, I think our total cost was like 125,000, I think. And this is a lot, obviously less than that, so. I think they did a great job. They trimmed the trees, which I didn't think we needed it, but looking at it, they're 7 feet high now and got rid of all the shrubs around them, and I think they did a great job.
They did a pretty good job, and they like to, they can, like to bid on the next summer contract if they can. That's it. So whenever that goes out, other than that, there's no water, and all the trees are good. They, you guarantee every one of them, those batches you replace, there's no fee, so it's, it looks forward to working with us on the future again, so.
Yeah. So again, we replanted some trees,
Yes.
cut out the bushes.
Remove all the
So
bushes, yes.
going forward, a lot of it is just maintenance. I don't know if there's gonna be
Just
many,
maintenance
many
now,
of the
there's
trees, I
there's
think,
no more.
right. That
we need
new
maintenance.
neighborhood put some new trees in for us. The new apartment buildings or,
Landscaping is always a part of a
well,
project.
they did it in the boulevard.
Well, that would be part of the improvement too, wouldn't it?
Well, I think because they changed the turn. So they added some.
They
trees.
replaced with trees, and they asked me what to plant 3 to 5 trees, I showed them one, and they did it.
Yep.
Mhm. I like this.
And they asked me what type of trees, I told them what type I thought it was, they choose it from those 2 type of trees, and it looks good to me.
So we'll add these to the bills to pay at the end. Total is $44,155, which I think the first half was less than that even.
First half was like 34,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, we're under 100 grand with them to do that side over there.
So these are in addition to what we had in the
Yeah.
packet?
Yeah.
Those we
What
can.
about 80,000 instead of 120 something?
Yeah. So $44,155. Good job, Gus.
Thank you.
We'll see how some of the curbs are broken. We'll see if they kind of, fix those in the spring.
all over the place.
Yeah, just people hit them and,
Just talk about the road commission at this point.
yeah, just the boulevard.
So one of the things that's, is a mistake when they did the intersection at Jackson and Baker, is when you come off of Baker and taking a left onto Jackson, is that they didn't use a wide radius, they used a narrow radius with the assumption that that would eventually go straight through. And you'd be doing your Michigan lefts, so we call them, to come through there. So it's tight. If you're pulling a trailer, or if you're driving a semi, if we're doing any work done up in that area, we should look into having that. And it's pretty banged up from being driven over. We could look into having that, in particular, if they're doing something that would be sawing out some curb and fixing a little piece. It'd be too small a job to, it'd be really expensive as
Is it on the east side of the intersection or the west side?
it's on the northeast curb.
Northeast curb.
Yeah, you come across from truck stops and stuff, and take a left onto Jackson. It's either lane. I mean, you have to
And
swing
your left-hand
way
side.
right. We have to swing way wide on it. If you're in the right lane, you have to swing. You kind of have to jockey around to get around them.
Anything else, Gus, on landscaping?
Nope.
All right, so go ahead. Now you're in the,
No,
we're
but
we're in
you
the next.
describe it well.
Yeah, no, that's what we're talking about. This is the DDA road projects update. And again, Dino Drive is done. Had great feedback from the businesses down there, obviously, they wanted the roads paved, so.
Just want to pay for it.
Yeah. Anything else, Will, on that, on the roads or?
Well, actually, it occurs to me, there's another thing that, I hadn't really thought of it being in the DDA district, but, the township, recently had, the water tower repainted. So if you haven't noticed that, you should drive by and check it out. It looks so much better.
Yeah, it does.
did. It was really, kind of making a township look kind of, I mean, it's funny, most people see township, driving by on the highway by the water tower. And it is sort of a landmark, and now it's much more presentable.
Did you get a ride up there?
I did not, I did not. It does from certain angles look like a giant golf ball on a golf tee, but, yeah.
And the branding's good, hopefully we keep the same branding going. Instead of having, 10 different logos all over the place, so. That's good. And again, I put in here from the master, our long-term range plan, Jennifer, just the one sheet that showed like 2022, but it was, and that's kind of what we were doing, saving money for the future boulevard, which I don't know if there's appetite now, but going all the way down to Parker Road, which when you're looking at it, I've heard discussions of a neighborhood going down at that corner. There's definitely warehouses going down. And again, we would rather keep the businesses, I would think, along the boulevard than to have them go this way, where they're gonna take farmland or something else away. So it's funny, because now, when we're done and we're saving some of this money for maybe that purpose, there's almost a need for it going down that road. I think the sooner you do something like that or plan for it, the cheaper the property's gonna be to buy back, the cheaper everything. So I just put that in our notes just to show that, the long-term range plan, even though, they did plan for that to go through all the way down. And I think that's the end of Scio anyways. that
Parker
corner.
Road, yeah.
You suggesting that we acquire the right of ways?
Yeah, eventually.
It's something that could get started on, but the road commission has a
I mean, there's
specialist.
a lot of planning,
The
obviously.
road commission has a specialist that does that.
But again, as long as Jay, you and I have been on this board, we've kind of planned for that to come eventually. In addition to, and you're talking about that intersection being small, I think that's why they left it that way, because they expected going down to be opened up like the rest of the
It's
boulevard.
never going straight. Baker's never going to the south anymore.
Yeah.
I mean,
Unless road
Oh, yeah.
gonna pay me a bunch of money.
right.
That's right, they drive right through your building.
And
That
again,
was the first meeting, meeting I ever went to, was talking about pushing Baker Road through the front of that. I said, road commission said no.
It gets too swampy down there. Really.
And as far back as you go, yeah.
that's why I put that one page in there, just to show it the original DDA board planning that boulevard had foresight to plan for that going out that way.
This page you're referring to.
Yeah. Exactly. Anything else on the roads?
Well, you mentioned earlier, DDA's sort of norm of using millage funds within the DDA district for a purpose that's sort of related to the millage. And one thing I think would be good for the DDA to think about in terms of the Parks and Pathways millage, the pathways part of it refers to basically any pedestrian improvement. And so the DDA could think long-term about replacing the sidewalks as they are beginning to wear out with
wider
something with a
path.
wider pathway. That would create a safer route for people who are moving along non-motorized manner along Jackson Boulevard in the DDA district. Right now, there's this narrow sidewalk, which is great,
Right.
opposed to nothing. But if you really want to make it a place that can be shared by cyclists, people pushing carriages, whatever, then a wider path makes sense.
Would you have to acquire right away?
I think it's within the right of way. You just, I don't know if that's true in every case, but I'm guessing you could expand a 5-foot sidewalk to a 8-foot
As long as
pathway.
it goes towards the curb
Yeah,
without getting more right away, because they are the property line as far as I know.
right.
And then, but then there's an issue of, MDOT might have an issue with having the sidewalk too close to the road. So it's all stuff that have to be investigated.
There's, I'm sure, issues to be worked out, but it's an idea if the DDA were to use the Parks and Pathways millage funds, because it's, they've banked quite a few of them. Yeah, I think the only thing we spent them on so far was the Parkland sidewalk segment that we put in back in 2021. So it's at least something to keep in mind.
Well, what kind of account do you think we get in as far as bicycles and stuff on that pathway? Cause I mean, I don't see a lot
I
of
don't-
pedestrians, I don't see a lot of bikes, but I mean, I
I
drive.
don't know,
a lot.
I know the idea at some level was that bicycles would use the sort of lane along in Jackson Boulevard, but I don't think many cyclists are crazy enough to ride on Jackson Boulevard, so that's part of the reason for sort of expanding the pathway. My experience with these is if you build it, they will come. And so, you know, basing it on current use is sort of only, it gives you limited data.
Well, I don't believe there's a need for it, in my opinion, yet. I think we should. We have a lot of other places to put this money into it. I think eventually we'll, but not at this point. I live with Jackson Road. My opinion is you don't see that much activity on it. Now there's more and more apartments gonna go on it. Eventually it might, but at this point, I don't see two people walking up and down the sidewalk. And I have,
Yeah,
and I have a lot of sidewalk in Jackson Road, and I don't see it. I don't, I mean, I think we should concentrate, nothing against you, your idea, we should concentrate on other things that we can right now, and then we can look at this one in the future. That the theater's gonna be built, there's gonna be more people, I understand. Then we should look at it and we should have some type of idea. How many people are really using any venue, before we start spending thousands and thousands of dollars on us maintaining that, my
but
opinion.
it is a good idea if and when it gets replaced.
Correct,
it should be
yeah, right,
replaced
I
when.
agree, yeah.
But
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
it's
very narrow.
segments, like there's a segment up to Toyota. It is 8 feet instead of 5 feet.
Yeah, I know that's partly what made
And it
me
was
think of it.
voluntary. It was
Right.
voluntary at the time and it was a great idea. But I don't know, if you walk the boulevard from Zeeb to.
Well, most people who are using the boulevard are in automobiles.
Yeah.
Well, but I mean, I've walked it and I've biked it
Right.
and I've biked over the Zeeb Road Bridge. And they're all unpleasant, it's mostly because of the noise. So it wouldn't be my choice to walk it or bike it, because I have a choice. But not
It's to
everybody does.
get, I think part of the reason for bringing it up is because Bob made the point that there's millages that are captured by the DDA currently. And if the DDA is trying to find ways to use those funds in a way that supports the larger mission of those millages, this would be one way of doing it. There will be, I think, the example that we were talking about earlier, Woodview Commons. One of the community benefits that they have is, that they will be providing is a pathway, an 8-foot pathway from Jackson Road through their site to connect to the nature preserves to the south. And as those kinds of segments are added along the Jackson Road area, I think if the Jackson Road sidewalk sort of met those pathways, it would create that unified pathway network that the township envisioned years ago when Jay and I served on the TAP committee.
I can say that I have seen people using Woodview's pathway already.
Well, one of the
When I
things
sit in
that
my office, I see people walk by all the time, I'm like, okay.
one of the things that the supervisor gets that is as data points is complaints. And so I hear from cyclists who use those sidewalks along Jackson Boulevard with any issues that they have. So I know that there are cyclists who use that as a way of getting back and forth. And I think we want to encourage that. The township, I think it's a goal. I agree, we don't want to, necessarily invest, huge sums up front, but I think it's something for the DDA to keep in mind.
Well, again, during COVID, we looked at the pedestrian crossing of this bridge, getting people to McDonald's. And that, we had good meetings with it, but it never came to anything. You gotta use, the federal government's involved with the bridge. But that led to the non-essential grant that you got for farther down on Zeeb Road.
Oh, shifting the funds?
No, you got it from the state of Michigan, but we led that by talking about the pedestrian crossing here on this road. Saline has the same problem. They've got a boulevard going down there downtown, so I don't think, again, 99.9% of the traffic is autos, so.
See, with that bridge, it's not just the walkway over the bridge, it becomes the walkways. I guess we've already done some work on those as far as getting on, crossing that entrance ramps and exit ramps.
Yeah, a little bit.
And it's, because it's scary too. Yeah. But, you know, I'm thinking with the sidewalks, maybe what we want to consider is having rode a bike up and down, the misalignment of the elevation. You know, when you're riding a bicycle and you hit an inch and a half gap bump.
Right.
You know, maybe you want to get into having some jacking or something like that, just.
So again, as it comes up
More
for
maintenance.
repair, right, we can make it 8 foot. Let's just check into the rules.
Pedestrian walkway that you talked about, that to me should be a high priority.
I agree.
It's dangerous for the people who work here. It's very difficult for the people to the south to access border to border. It's the pinch point. Even Jackson Road is less usable if you can't turn north and use border. I would prioritize that.
Well, there's also, and this is something that's gonna be unfolding in the coming months, a study of, the Jackson Road, funded in part with SEMCOG grant money. So that's something that will generate some additional data in terms of pedestrian use, but also sort of, what kind of safety measures to encourage pedestrian, not motorized use of it.
Who's doing this?
Jackson. The township has, the plan is through the planning commission. We are, the only respondent we had to the request for proposals was OHM. So OHM is going to be the consulting firm helping with that study, but there'll be data coming in.
Did you
and
put
I'm
out the
sure-
bid to other
Pardon?
places? You put out the bid to other?
Oh, yeah.
They're
It
the
was-
only ones that
I
responded.
know,
They were the
that's
only
fine,
ones that
but at least you
responded.
put it out to bid.
Well, I think part of it is that it's a relatively small
Right.
project. And so it wasn't I'm guessing that it wasn't as attractive as other things that people, that firms are bidding on.
Good. We'll put that in the plan and address that again for next year, but yeah, as repairs come up. I agree with Jeff, this should be our priority looking at. If people are riding their bikes, I used to go to Dexter Wellness and I'm not riding my bike on this, I get killed on that, so. There are some other spots that should be.
What do you do with a sidewalk that's 4 feet wide, and you got an 8 feet, you take another 3 or 4 feet to it, and it stops some point, what do? It's awful weird, you got, I mean, somebody's gonna kill himself.
Right.
You got
Either you're gonna
300
make them
feet
all,
at 4
either you're gonna make
feet,
them all 8 feet,
200 feet at 8 feet.
either you're gonna make them all 8 feet, or take the, like Will says, you wanna make it 8 feet, budget the money, so we got the money, then once we get all of it, knock it all 8 feet, start doing 8 feet, because you got 3 feet, that the guy's gonna flip over the grass or something. Those things don't make sense.
But just start with the ordinance.
Yeah,
Just
you gotta
start with the
start
ordinance
somewhere.
that- As people are redeveloping and
Correct.
developing proper, that they do 8 feet.
Correct.
Which I think
I
we already
agree.
have in place, yeah.
All right, anything else on the roads? That's good though. Landscaping water, we talked about it. We're gonna add that to, the bills at the end. Update on the Scio athletic field and playground out back here. I don't know, Will, if you wanna address that at all.
Well, we have someone here, from the Parks Preserve.
You wanna update
Pathways
us on that?
Committee. You wanna speak to it, Rita?
It's all right.
Well, I didn't mean to
Have
put
a
you on,
discussion.
I don't wanna put you on the spot, but I just thought, you know.
Again, we paid for their, large, plan through the architects. We had it updated a little bit, and that's the limit of what we've done so far to help with this.
Is there a copy of that anywhere, plan?
Yeah. It's in your email. I'll get it to you. I'll get it to you, Gus. I might have it here.
So Rita Clinton is one of the co-chairs of the Parks Preserves and Pathways Committee, so she will have up-to-date information.
So the latest and greatest that I can speak to is that we had several concepts done and some discussion, and then there was I think at least one or two more concepts that were done. And we're working with the Scio Flyers as well. We'd like to not just, kick them out or anything like that. We'd like to, they seem like, pretty good tenants in that, or I don't know if you can call them tenants, but working partners in that they do offer something that's kind of unique as with the line, and they do work with young kids and things like that. So, and there's other things about that, but we're still in consideration of, all the requests for, playing fields, how we can keep those two working together. It just seems like at this point in our development, having the Scio Flyers out using the same fields as any other fields, it just means a little bit of scheduling. And that's something that, in the baby steps of all of this, that's just seems like a very manageable thing to do. We are moving forward with the playground area. We have a Boy Scout who's working to do his Eagle Scout project. And we don't want him to time out so we are trying to, well, we are doing it. We are working with MRC to kind of oversee and make sure that if this is going to be a nature play space, we want to make sure that we're covering the bases properly, that we have safety issues. We're working with Dan from MRC. He has been in this business for over 30 years. And so he knows exactly what we need to do to make it safe. Okay. And he's also working with this Eagle Scout potential student to kind of mentor him through this. And so we feel pretty confident with all that happening that it's going to be a good idea. They're only doing 3 elements together, but Dan is also going to be giving us some other concepts that we can do to add on to that. So we have an area that's on the slope over on the side that's away from any of what would be a playing field or the Scio Flyers or anything like that. And it feels like a really safe place to put our park. It's not far from the bathrooms or bathroom, whatever we're gonna have. But anyway, so this is, at this point, this is where the parks is with moving forward with that.
OHM is also doing some work on the perimeter trail, right?
They are doing the engineering, I think, for that, as far as giving us, kind of an idea of what it all is involved to do the pathway. And so we're also, keep in mind that we do want a pavilion. We know we want a pavilion at some point, and so we want the pathway to make sure that we accommodate all these different things so we don't have to undo something later. So that's what OHM is working on with us right now. Does that make sense? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Still baby steps.
And again, I think the DDA's perspective, is that gonna be an economic viable impact to the community? And I don't think it's gonna do that yet. It will eventually. I was gonna forward out over by Grand Rapids, there's a $13 million park going on. They got Meyer involved, Alrose Steel's involved. But we have a pretty high person that lives in Scio. So those would be 2 companies that we could use, like Chelsea has done. You bring the public and the private, communities together to fund that. So I think once that happens, I think the DDA could get more involved, but right now, hopefully kids will use that playground. It's gonna be mostly logs and things. I'm out here with my dog twice a week walking, so I've been out here for 20 years in that back. The Flyers are great guys. Again, they have a contract with us. It's a 0 rent contract, but they maintain that property. Actually, they mow it, take care of it. We don't make any money off them. I don't know, the Pittsfield Township charges for their pavilions. It could be a revenue stream eventually. Soccer fields would be nice. So from my perspective, I don't see us helping until they're ready. The parks is ready to do something on a big site.
Just a little aside, and I don't know if I brought this up before, but one of our adjacent townships offers a Metro Parks pass, 1 per household, paid for by the township, as opposed to building their own parks. And it could be a short-term gap bridge to having parks, but since we have 2 Metro Parks in our township.
So can I also mention one other park that if you could get a chance to go look at it, MRC installed a park, designed it, well, they designed the park, I'm sure they installed it too. And it's up off of I-96, it's called Survivor Park. And it's up between Brighton and Howell. I did get a chance to visit that park. It's at their township hall, is it Genoa? I don't know how to say that. Genoa.
Yeah.
And it's at their township hall. And it does have the fields are separated. It does have the pavilion. It does have a playground for older children, and it has, or all ages. But it also has another playground that's geared towards really young children. That's not as crazy. And probably grandparents like me, when you go, you know, some of that stuff is, they do have little cheat ways where grandparents can get through without breaking their hip. But anyway, it's an exciting park. If you up that way, if you get a chance to check it out. I think it's worth the drive. It takes 30 minutes to get there from here, but if you're passing through, it's just off of I-96. I think it's close to it's on Door Road, but I think there's some construction going on between the highway. Yeah. Oh, it just finished.
Yep.
Well, that would
My
make it
parents
easier.
lived in,
Okay.
I grew up in Genoa Township.
But that will give you some idea of MRC's like really big handiwork. I'm not sure that we're ready to do something on that large of a scale, but it does show where, I don't know what the land size difference is, but it does show that you can do all of these things and they really complement each other. So having the playing fields, and they were busy while I was there. There wasn't a game, it was just kids kicking soccer balls around. One field was very busy. The pavilion was very busy, and the small children playground as well as the older children playground were both very busy. So I can see where some of this is yeah, maybe if you need to make money off of those, yes, if the township is, when we're in a position to do that, we have enough staff to actually make that happen. But also it's such a compliment to their community. It's a great, I mean, having really good parks in your community is just amazing. And Ann Arbor is good for that, this whole area is. So I think we're on the right track. I think we're doing what we can and we're working on it. So that's where we are.
One of the baby steps that we talked about is occurring, well, it's on the agenda for the Board of Trustees to take action on this evening. And that's a quote for finishing one of the two restrooms that were included in the addition to the township hall. So there's these exterior facing restrooms, and there's a quote for finishing one of them before the board this evening.
Baby steps, right?
Well, and speaking of baby steps, it will have a changing table in it, so.
Yeah, it's gonna be a really all-purpose restroom, that's for sure. So, okay,
Thank you.
all right, sure.
So anything else on those subjects? So just bringing up, and I sent out an email about this, the schedule for next year, and like Ann Arbor does it, Grand Rapids, Ipsy, they have their DDA meetings in the morning instead of at lunch like this. You know, we could do it Tuesday mornings, Wednesday mornings. I don't know what everybody's schedule is. I think a lot of us can, if we block it out, you know, we can make it. So I don't know if there's talk about changing the schedule for next year. I'd like to change it, I think would be,
So why don't we?
you know, we wouldn't do it Monday morning, but maybe a Tuesday or Wednesday morning. Next year.
I'm indifferent.
Be fine with me. I'll
Put
be
it
here.
out, make sure the public knows it's changing. And again, most DDAs, because it is a business meeting, most DDAs do have it in the morning. There was, you know, in the past, some people talk about having it at 7 PM with all the other meetings, but I think, you know, we're gonna have our own EIN number. It's gonna be a little separate, so I think it's good to just. And it usually gets done quicker, right? It's first thing in the morning and then we get on with our days.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
Do we need to vote? Is it
Yeah, we need to
proposal?
vote on.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
So we wanna make a suggestion for 8 AM on
8 AM,
Wednesdays, 9 AM?
8:30,
8:30?
post bus pickup?
Yeah, exactly. I was just gonna say.
What, 8:30 or 9?
Right.
Don't look at me, this is my last meeting.
8:30 Tuesdays?
Well, I like 8:30, but you.
Don't matter to me. Do it.
No matter to me, I'm gonna be here anyway, so it's no problem to me.
Same Tuesday or different Tuesday?
We could do it second, I mean, I was gonna do the same, but we could do it a different part of the month. And again, when we were building the boulevard, we met monthly. We could go back to that, I think, again, just because we're not meeting here, doesn't mean there's work not being done, so. I think this is actually the easiest part of our what we're supposed to be doing, but
Let's do a second.
we could do it
Tuesday.
monthly,
Second Tuesday.
semi-annually. If there's other road construction that goes on, maybe we go back monthly, call special meetings like we have in the past.
When's the trustee meeting?
Second and fourth Tuesday.
So we may wanna pick a different Tuesday.
Yeah.
Well,
First or
it's
third.
usually Mondays, the DDA meetings are usually
Yes.
Mondays, it's
Oh,
just an
we-
anomaly today.
We're talking about moving on a Tuesday.
But we wanna do it on a Monday morning, that's,
Monday morning.
I don't care.
Monday morning,
I'm up anyway.
Monday mornings are a crusher.
yeah, I think people are getting on with their, just,
Tuesday?
You do Tuesday, and frankly, the board meetings are till 7 o'clock at night.
we'll be out-
The meeting lasts that long, we probably.
Does it affect you?
But it means you start early and
We have
like.
meetings on Tuesday mornings.
Yeah, you don't
Oh,
want,
yes.
you don't want, generally speaking, you don't wanna add more to Tuesdays when you have a board
What
meeting.
about Wednesdays?
I don't think there's.
Good call. Yeah, if you got any other meeting, cause
As long as you guys don't.
You
go
got a
too
couple
long
hats on.
your board meeting the night before.
Yeah, and we're here till 3 a.m. and then we get 2 hours of sleep.
Right.
Wednesday's okay?
Wednesday mornings are good.
Thursday?
I think Wednesday mornings. are fine.
Wednesday, 30.
We'll be here all night anyway, right?
Pretty
Oh,
much.
yeah, that's true, like you
No.
guys,
No.
that'd be bad. Wednesday morning,
No, we're.
those meetings are
Why
like
we go Tuesday at noon?
Tuesday at noon, well, we just leave it at Monday at noon. Noon.
Okay.
I'm fine with Monday at noon.
All right,
I'm really flexible. I don't really.
I'm flexible.
You can always revisit it later.
Right, all right, we're gonna keep the schedule.
Right, well, so Christie's gonna wanna know when.
Monday at noon,
Monday at noon, every other
So
day.
the second Monday,
put it on your schedule,
All the way around to.
Right.
Same as always.
which actually brings me to the next subject again. A lot of us, our terms are up. So if you want to, we have to fill out a form to possibly be reappointed for the next term. And I'll send you the link, it's on their website, so, but,
If you go to the
Ryan-
website, there's a form and you can indicate interest in continuing to serve.
yeah, so we need to do that, and that's the right thing to do. If you don't want to, don't fill it out, if you want to.
Well, you could fill it out and say that you don't want to. if
Right, or you
don't.
could fill it out, see if you get,
Okay.
see if we get reappointed. You know, there's always changing the guard, so, and which, it is like, some of us, just the way we've always done it, our terms were all the same, so you should stagger them. I'll stay if,
When is it due?
There's
Well, we gotta
there's
get it
not a
done.
deadline, but it's probably the sooner the better.
yeah, I'll send it out today. Let you know.
Is it staggered now? Do you know who
No.
is now terming out?
Ryan and Tim was sick, so Ryan and Tim are still on.
27 and
The
28.
rest of us, 5 of us are up.
Yeah, the background, Jeff, is that all of the township boards and commissions, almost every single appointment had expired when we took office back in, the current board took office back in 2020. And so we quickly tried to rectify that situation, and in the process of doing that, we didn't reestablish staggering of terms. We just gave everyone the same terms, in part because a lot of the sort of charges to different committees, including the DDA, said subsequent terms will be whatever number of years they are. So since we have let the staggering sort of, disappear, we just went with what the statute said, or what the ordinance or the charges said, and gave everyone the same terms. In hindsight, it would have been better to,
To stagger that. Does it say that each term is, so you said that was 2020, does it say that each term is 4 years, or how was 4 years determined?
it started in we reappointed people to the DDA in January of 21.
Got it.
So most of the appointments are expiring at the end of January 2025.
So that's what I'm asking, are they 4 years by?
I think the DDA
Statute
bylaws,
or-
I think statute.
Okay.
It's, well, and for the DDA, it's
Tells you how
maybe ordinance, it may spell it out. I'm not sure exactly where it's spelled out for the DDA, but it's different
Yeah,
for
why 4
each,
years?
each one.
Yeah, why 4 years is my question. I'm not,
Oh, yeah, no, it's, the standard is, I think, 4 years, and then since we did it all at once, everyone had the same expiration date.
understood. I was just trying to, is it standard? Is it code? Is it
Yeah,
convention?
it's,
Is it?
it's
just
in the
bad
bylaws,
practice, or-
page 9, members shall be appointed to serve for a term of 4 years,
Okay.
except that of the members first appointed, an equal number as near as is practical, shall be appointed for a term of 1, 2, 3, and 4 years.
So the next, is it gonna stagger? Are we gonna stagger it this time?
I think that's the idea is to, since then, in fact, earlier this year, the board adopted a policy for appointments. And, in that policy is a conscious effort to reestablish staggered terms where they, for whatever reason, fell away.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right,
Thank you.
yep, I'll forward that out to everybody.
More than you wanted to know, but.
No, that's exactly what I wanted to know. I'm not doubting it. I just want to know why.
So again, we already talked about this, but the plans for next year were to possibly extend the DDA, and we'll talk more with the new board about that. And again, that's a trustee, well, we would present it to the trustees and they would decide. But again, having the DDA extended allows us to bond further on. We can't bond right now because the time frame is 2028. So even if we didn't bond, just having that ability to bond, and extend the DDA. Traverse City just did it. We'd get somebody else outside council to help us with it, but it's not. I don't think it's that impossible, if that's what the trustees decide to do. And then looking at the district's boundaries again, we would do that, because I think we could collect some businesses towards, it's up by Liberty and Wagner, where the new fire station is, but towards Ann Arbor, like Scio goes kind of over that bridge, doesn't it go
Silent
a little farther down? Yeah.
It's like Liberty Sports
Sort of
Complex.
lost
That could be a good wish list, but to talk to the taxing authorities,
Right,
you know, if we start taking part of.
right. Oh, it's a lift.
I will
It's a dam.
say the other thing that's going to make the treasurer's job very difficult on is when you change it, have 2 different base values for different areas. It just makes things more complex. It's not
Ryan,
saying.
you already complaining? All right.
Wait, Bob, can I just add
Yeah.
one thought? So I think extending the DDA and reviewing the district boundaries, the thing that drives, I think drives that is the DDA plan. And I know
Right.
we worked on this and then it just sort of went on the back burner. But I think
I thought that was.
in some ways,
That's on a whole business, but yeah,
you know,
you're right.
that's what
That
should
would
really
drive.
be pushing whether to extend the DDA. So like, what is the purpose? What are the goals?
But again, without the DDA, Scio would lose tax revenue if it went away, so.
I mean, I was here when we extended it before. And it was a process and it took time and there was visioning sessions and
You think that's
a lot of, I guess that was part of the pitching it to the residents. And so on as to how, what the plan was.
Yeah, if it's just to capture tax revenue for the purpose of capturing tax revenue, I think that's not as strong an argument as here are the things that the DDA is doing, here's what it wants to do in the
Was
future.
that, Jay? Was that before 2008?
And
Yes.
I'll, based on kind of
Like
what I heard
2006.
today, put maybe just a small matrix together of the things that we could, the simple things to be investing in. And then does it hit safety? Does it hit growth? Does it hit, and the key qualities and then the effort associated to it? So we have something to at least start and then we can figure out how to partner with the board on their initiatives, what makes sense.
Yeah.
Obviously, everything requires people and resources to get things done. So there's a limited amount, obviously, with the board here, but what's the next 5 years look like for?
Right.
Well, and what Jessica was mentioning in her presentation earlier about the DDA working closely with the township board in the capital improvement planning process, I think that could be a basis for sort of not only figuring out what the DDA will do, but sort of aligning the DDA with the township.
Mhm. Well, and the reopening of the conversation for Jackson Boulevard.
I think that
That's,
and
sounds like now's probably a very good time to start. confirming,
utilities,
investigating and.
those kind of
making
things we
sure
can help with.
To give you an idea, there's a $10 million project on the capital improvement plan. For sometime in the next 6 years, work on water and sewer, specifically on pump infrastructure. The pump's old, the pump needs upgrading in size and generator upgrading. It's like a $10 million lift. Does all the money have to come from one source? No. Could some of it come from different sources? Yes.
Well, the DDA could bond for it
Exactly.
standalone, and it's all within the DDA district.
Down there in Jackson, that spot,
I wanna say,
there's a couple spots down there.
I think it's for the one next to the PNC Bank, right? Is that the, I think
The
it's.
wine
But
guards
it's
with.
not,
Oh,
but it services more than just the DDA district, but there's some shares,
Yeah.
shares that could go on there.
There's some.
Well, but it's located, I mean, legitimately, it's located within the DDA district.
We
so
don't want
it's a
that problem in the
candidate.
DDA.
I think if we could have our attorney
Well, that works for me.
give us, I guess, did you get more of you gave us the memo you were giving us?
Yeah, he was gonna give us more information on the fire.
Has he done
Options.
that to date?
He hasn't done that yet. All right, I would have brought it here, Ryan.
Gotcha.
Any other questions on that? No. Good. So we got a lot to do. Again, we were close of looking at the long-term plan and kind of waited for some things, so we'll address that again as well.
Bob, in our next budget, we wanna have maybe funds in there to hire a person to extend the DDA, et cetera, and run, whether we hire a director or whether we just hire a consultant to do that.
I know, we consider that as well too, so. Yeah, we can do that. Next I've got hiring a scanning company. Again, we were looking at that. I know Jessica's looking at it as well. I think having Ryan in place will help with digitizing our records and updating, right, all the paper in the basement, so.
Yeah, sometime later Q1, I think we'll have some more information about that.
Yeah. I mean, it's down there in boxes, but it would be nice, if, so you can go back 10 years and look at what they did, just so you have a starting point, so getting that digitized would be good. Put that on your list, Ryan. On the backside, it's still, cause I don't know if this will ever happen either, but having, some plan for trees in the DDA. And maybe we have our own separate fund for that, cause it sounds like that tree fund is not, viable for us to use in the DDA. So having our own tree fund, and then we already talked about the road committee with, the other road committee and working together with them a little bit better.
How did we lose that? How did we lose out on that tree fund since
You don't
all
know.
the money's collected from the
It
DDA?
came from IHA.
All of
IHA
it.
funded the first one.
All of it's collected from the DDA.
So it's true that most of the money in the tree fund came from projects that are located within the DDA district. The tree fund policy that was finally adopted by the board puts an emphasis on reforestation rather than sort of trees here and there. And so the bulk of it in the initial project is to target land that's owned by the township where reforestation can occur on a sort of larger scale. So it doesn't exclude projects or uses of the tree fund for other things, but that's the primary purpose that was adopted.
So what plans in progress?
Which
Plans in,
what location?
yeah, what's in
On-
progress?
on-
Is there a plan
I
going on?
I believe it's on Stabler Road. It's part of the West Scio preserves.
Is there a consultant involved or?
Well, it's just got approved, so
Okay.
it's it hasn't even taken that baby step yet.
All right. To the bills, take a look at, all the bills that were put together,
Plus, the one,
plus a new one. I don't know if anybody wants to see these. But again, I think Jeff wrote down it's $44,000 we'll add to the landscape company. Where are those guys out of Chelsea? Gus? What's your local additional? Again, we pay these attorneys to just monitor the bonds and they charge us a fee every year.
I thought you said 44,155.
What does it add up to?
Well, this,
These
Yeah,
just
there's three of them.
three.
oh,
You had a 1,300, you had an 80.
oh, I see, I see. I thought these were,
300,
I
and
thought
you
these,
had 34.
I see. I thought those were multiple copies of the same thing. These all add up to this amount. Yeah, okay.
I mean,
Sorry,
the thing
my
that
mistake.
is a bit confusing, Sandy, this is what Sandy wrote on this, is the bond disclosure agent has an invoice of total due of $1,000, but only part of it's going to the DDA.
That's good. I don't know what this 494 is, 82.
494,826.
Maybe that's our portion that we pay for the,
Yeah,
cause Jessica just handed us the audit, so maybe we gotta pay the $500.
I guess we'll pay $500 and we'll come back to.
Let's just pay the $500 and see if they ask for the other half.
I think it's split. Isn't that the logic?
Yeah, that's what I think.
The township is paying half and
Yeah.
it's paying
And
half.
what did we add onto this? We added on, how much?
44,155 for.
Yeah.
44,155.
Yeah.
Then we got legal services. The park master plan project, we paid a little bit more. What did they do? They updated.
They provided two additional concepts that incorporated the feedback that they got on the original three concepts.
Yeah, and they did a great job, and they do big parks all over the place. I mean, I'm really impressed with the architects, whether we're ready to do a big park or not, but when we are, they're an excellent company to use. And then road commission, the final payment for the Dino Drive.
Yeah, correct.
As well. And again, you know, even January, I think we start talking to them early, cause it's always last minute, we get their recommendations and so, you know, maybe we go over there and, you know, walk into their building, see the list earlier, at least know when it's coming out.
Well, and I think there's the road advisory committee as well.
Right.
to
When did that usually come out? Their road commission list,
Well,
February?
That's your choice.
discuss our list and then they're gonna have theirs and we compare them and then we figure out the funding.
Yeah.
So we're starting actually tomorrow at our meeting. The earlier the better with road commission. By May, they have to make their final decision.
That's
But
good. And we're always seems to be the last one to know, and then it's, you know, hurry, make a decision.
yeah, start, next meeting.
Do we, so the next meeting of this body is in January.
Yeah. So it is.
Do we have an idea, the DDA of roads that, you know, are on our list of things in the DDA district? And the only other side road major side road that hasn't been done is North Stabler.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
Most of them have been updated.
well, the problem with doing North Stabler, I think,
Activity.
is that there's gonna be construction there at some point in the near future. I don't, there's no like proposal, but it's just an obvious candidate for something. And when that happens, that's when the road commission will reach an agreement with whoever's doing that construction to, you know, redo the road.
That and it's currently a Class B road. And depending on who builds there, may want to upgrade it to a Class A.
So what does that mean, Class B?
And weight restrictions.
So they can't get semis on there or something?
They can, but they'd have to bond it and then they'd be responsible for repairing it and so on. So if you go to Class A. And that's my understanding anyway. It's a whole road commission thing you'd have to discuss, but you know, like Medi Drive's a Class A, at least it was a Class A unless it got changed. But
Well, also, if
It
you're
seems
gonna
weird.
be driving construction and trucks and so on, you wanna wait until after to do the
that
repaving.
makes, there'll be a
We'll
month.
get,
in
we'll get
spring.
with the road committee to look if there's anything to do in that. Maybe we take a year off from the, you know, if they're gonna do projects down there, maybe we take a year off from.
Like if that ever got used for a sewage plant or sewage storage, you know, or whatever, I mean, there'd be certain.
Well, that's what there's some discussion of maybe putting the utilities down there.
There'd be a month when you couldn't truck your, you know, if you had sludge or anything like that, you couldn't truck it.
The road, I mean, if this group asks the road commission for suggestions, I'm sure they'll have them.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, how about that? Jackson Road.
We should ask earlier than later too, yes.
Just to put it on the radar though, yeah.
Yeah, I really don't want to.
All right. So, and then, grant. And again, this applied environmental, that again is the smooch project, so it's a pass through. So we collect money from the state and then just pass it through. It doesn't. If you see it on our books, it's 600,000 going in and out, so it doesn't come out of our budget from the state, which was another good project, I think, for us. I keep on asking when it's done. They said it's very close to being done, but. So
So do you want a
then
motion?
we'll add the 44,000 to it as well. So motion to approve the bills as,
We're not $296,912.50.
go ahead, Jay, what was that number?
Well, to amend paying the bills to Head Nature's Choice for $44,155 for a total of $296,912.50.
I'll second.
All those in favor, say aye, Ryan.
You need a roll call.
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Gus, Jennifer,
Yep.
Linda,
Yes.
Will.
Yes.
Bob, yes. Motion passes. Thank you. And then again, I just put those old, again, we've already talked about this, the long-term goals. Jennifer, look at that again. Maintenance responsibility, they'd like us to help with that. Again, it's, what's the purpose of the DDA, but that's possible. And other DDAs, if they're up north, they shovel the business district sidewalks, but they do it for everybody. So there is some maintenance that some DDAs do. Roads we talked about, so I think if looking at the names of these, most of those, right, are pretty much been repaved in the last few years.
Stabler's the exception.
Right, so
North Stabler.
right. And then we already talked about extending the DDA and Ryan found that EIN number, which is crazy, because we asked the bank and then I called the IRS forever. They said mail them a letter, which I did 8 months ago, no response, so.
I just sent, we went with the two people from Bank of Ann Arbor that work with South Township, and I sent them both an email thanking them for their time, and I said, do you happen to have a record of a different EIN number for South Township's DDA from South Township? And they said, yes, we gave it to Donna since you're not assigned on the account. I said, perfect,
Yeah.
thank you.
Because all the bank accounts are under Sal's EIN number, but.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, is it the same as the sort of phantom old EIN number that we found on documents here?
I don't know about what that EIN number is,
Okay,
so
all right.
I guess we'll have to compare the numbers and see
Yeah.
if they are the same as the
Alright.
phantom number.
But we need to memorialize it somewhere in the
Yeah.
DDA.
As soon as I get into office, we can memorialize it and
Have to.
have it in the records. I mean, truthfully, the other thing that needs to happen, one way or another, what you're talking about sort of at the beginning. Right now, Scio Township, at least for the Comerica account, investment account. I talked to Gus and Jennifer about this. They're going to have to digitally sign a new signature card and a corporate resolution. To add me as the treasurer for Scio Township. Because we all share one EIN number and therefore in Comerica's eyes, it's one corporate resolution.
Hey, you gotta be on all those accounts.
It's fine, except that there should be two separate corporate resolutions, one for the DDA.
Yeah, that's a good
Scio
one.
Township.
But we need to put that corporate resolution on the January agenda.
Probably, I'll work with Kyle to get it fixed from Comerica.
Well, I think the original DDA has a corporate resolution right on the front, the old one, but I'm sure.
This is Comerica's corporate
Oh,
resolution
there's.
with
yeah.
each party.
Yeah.
So yeah, like.
If I
just
set
if
up
you had an
corporate
L-
accounts.
If you had an LLC account that had money with you, it's the same idea.
Owning foreign securities is a pain, there's a lot of.
Yeah.
But before we adjourn, I would like to thank everybody for
Yeah.
their service. I've enjoyed working with you over the past few years.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
Millian is ready to step in, so she'll be acting as supervisor in the capacity of supervisor on the DDA, starting at your next meeting. Well, actually, if there's any duties for her to do starting after November 20th, but at the next meeting, Jillian will be the.
I'll just copy you on everything that.
Thank
You're
you,
saying you
Will.
won't be here,
Yeah, just come for fun.
No, that's one of the benefits of not being a supervisor is you don't have to attend meetings.
Ah,
Oh. Well, thank
Well,
you, Will.
congrats.
Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations.
So you want a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, we have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Your last official act.
Yeah, 36. I need a
All
second.
those in favor, say aye, Gus. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, guys. Thanks. Have a good holiday season. I'll follow with some emails to everyone and, yeah, plan on January, unless we hear something else.
So I'm gonna
Thank
send
you.
a note to Christie requesting the every other month, twenty
A
25,
little bit.
Mondays at noon.
Yeah, we're gonna keep
Yep.
the same.
Repeat, copy paste, but she likes to have something so that she can.
Yeah, the whole year.
Second Monday.
Second, okay, so I have the January 13,
Yeah.
and then March 10, May 12, July 14, September 8, and November 10. But November 10 may again be that.
Veterans Day is on Tuesday, it's always 11/11.
Yeah, it's always the Monday.
Always the 11th, but it'll be the
We always
Tuesday.
had we just had the treasurers meeting earlier, we had the same scheduling conventions.
Veterans Day is always 11/11. Is that right?
I
Yes.
thought it was-
Yeah.
Why is that?
11/11. It's not like.
Armistice, it was originally Armistice Day, if I remember the history correctly, and therefore it's always 11/11.
I thought it was a Monday too, always on Monday.
I wish Christmas was the last Friday of December,
They went
but
hard.
actually
I
when they
just
make
read that it
that.
became Veterans Day during the Eisenhower administration.
Huh.
When we had former general inaugurating the first Veterans Day.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, Will, did I tell you the official decision?
It's going. We're so busy.
Is it going according to plan mostly or?